The truth.
Hello again and welcome back. It's me, Audie, with Middle-earth Mentors. Today we're going to be doing your character panel. It's basically the main hub for your character information and all the stuff you're wearing. So if you hit C for character, obviously, it brings up your character panel. You can also access it from down here. But C is the easiest way. So right off the bat, you can see this is me. Yay, me. I have a skin applied, so my panel is going to look a little bit different, but the buttons are all the same, so just ignore the artwork part of it. Right away, you can see jewelry, armor, weapons, and class slot and all that stuff down here. We're not going to touch on cosmetic outfits because I'm going to do a separate video just for that because cosmetics are amazing, so they get their own video. I'm also not going to get into exactly what I'm wearing because that is irrelevant. Down here you can see obviously your weapon, shield, range slot, crafting tools, and your class slot. The only thing I would mention about these is these little side ones here are for Cosmetic Auras, which make your weapon glow with certain effects. So for example, you can see I have this one here applied to my bow. So if we close that and zoom in on my bow, a little bit, you can see it kind of has that aura going on. It's just a nice little cosmetic thing. That's all it is. It's just a cosmetic and does nothing beyond that. I'll go into these stats. I'm not going to get into specific setups because it's going to be different for everybody. I'll just go over briefly what stats do what thing. Obviously, your morale here is your health. Again, in this game, tooltips, they're everywhere. So if you put your cursor over a thing, it'll tell you what it is. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Power, obviously, is your power. Some games call it mana. Easy. Armor. Again, this is just basic armor stat. So if I go into these shoulder pads, every piece of armor will have an armor stat on it. So this one's got 4,007 armor. That armor stat is just the raw number that contributes to this, and these will contribute 100% to your mitigations, and we'll get into mitigations in a minute. So these here are your main base stats. So there's 3 different class types in this game. There's stat types. There's might, agility, and will classes. Generally, the rule is if you're a heavy armor class, you're a might. If you're a medium armor class, you're an agility. And if you're a light armor class, you're a will. But if you're not sure, or you can't remember, what kind of armor your character's wearing, it will tell you what is the most important. So the stat here that says this is very important for you is your main top stat. So for example, I'm a guardian, I'm a heavy armor. If I hover my cursor over might, it says right on there, as a guardian, might is very important for you. If I was, let's say a lore master, it's not going to say might is very important for you. It'll just say might does this thing, okay? Now, everybody's secondary stat, regardless of who you are or what you are or anything, is vitality. Vitality is the second most important. So as you can see there, it says vitality is important for you. So whichever one it says for you is very important, that's your base stat. And important is going to be vitality for everybody. The other ones are not going to say anything. They're just going to tell you what they do. So if I hover over fate here, it just says fate increases your critical rating. Big deal, okay? These 3, as you can see, might for a guardian gives physical mastery, block, and parry. Make sure to examine these for your class because although a lot of them are similar, these 3 extra stats here the 3 stats that make up might are going to change depending on the class. So for example, lore master might is not going to give those same 3 things to a lore master as me or as, a minstrel or something. Same with all of these. So make sure you just generally check over these, look which one is best for your class. Fate is kind of the throwaway stat. Nobody bothers with fate. It contributes to crit, but raw crit numbers are usually better than fate. So it's one of those that if your armor has it, great. If your armor doesn't have it, nobody cares. Moving on. Critical rating is, of course, your critical hits. So if you're new to gaming, critical hit is basically your hit, you critically hit. So the hit that you used hit critically, its damage is increased exponentially. So it's a very hard hit. It's very nice to have. Crit is a good thing. Again here, so it tells you, and it explains, you know, your melee crit, your ranged crit, tactical crit, etc. And if you're like me, where you look at raw numbers and you're like, great, I have 14,000 crit. Well, what does that mean? You know, is 14,000 good or bad? If you put your cursor over it, it will tell you the percent. So 14,900 crit for me means my crit chance of my melee attacks is increased by 10.8%. So, yay me. Finesse. As you're leveling, you don't really need to worry about this. Finesse basically makes you miss less. So, you know, if you're shooting arrows left, right, and center, and you shoot 10 hours, shoot 10 hours. Shoot 10 arrows and 8 of them miss, it's because your finesse is shit. So, as it says right there, it reduces your opponent's block, parry, evade, and resistance. As you get into the higher levels, where you can control which stats are on your gear, this will be more important depending on your class, but as you're leveling, don't stress about this one. Your masteries here, your 2 masteries, this is your raw damage, okay? Depending on your class, you're either going to be a base physical mastery class or a base tactical mastery class. Tactical mastery are the casters, so light armor classes. Everyone else is physical mastery. Now, there are a number of classes that are a certain mastery, but have the other mastery in a few attacks. Like a captain is a might class. It's a physical mastery class. It does have a few tactical mastery attacks. That does not make it a tactical mastery class, okay? So, you know, if you're a captain, you wouldn't want to use all tactical mastery armor because you're beefing up, you know, 1 out of your 40 attacks or whatever it's going to be. So generally, you're going to be one of these or the other. I'm a guardian, might class, heavy armor. I'm physical mastery all the way. And again, put your cursor on it. It'll tell you your percent, how much extra damage. That one's pretty straightforward. Light of Arendelle, totally disregard this until you get to Mordor. This doesn't even come into the game until Mordor, which is at 105. So don't worry about that. Resistance is exactly what it says. It resists effects. Effects in this game are things like poison or fear, stuff like that. Again, as you're leveling, this isn't something you really need to worry about. Even at later levels, this isn't really a big, heavy hitter as far as stats go. Crit defense is basically just your defense against a mob's critical attacks. Again, while you're leveling, it's not that important. You won't really have much control over which stats are on your gear anyways. If you are a tanking class, this may become more important for you at later levels, but don't really worry about it until you get into the raiding side at endgame, or, you know, closer to endgame. Incoming healing is exactly what it says. It increases the amount that you get healed by other people and by yourself. So this is a good one to have for some classes, especially tanks. Other than that, pretty much nobody else needs to worry about that. We won't get too much into these because depending on your class, you won't even use these or not. I'm a tank. These are important for me. Block, parry, evade. These are just my, as it says, avoidances. If you're a caster class, light armor class, you won't even ever look at these. So depending on your class, you can investigate these more or just completely disregard. Your biggest, probably most important ones, because they are used on every class, regardless of your job or race or class or anything, are your mitigations, commonly called MITs, as you'll hear them called. Physical MIT, tactical MIT. These are critical. You have to have these. No excuses! All of my characters use the mitigation virtues, period. I do have a few swappy virtue setups that you can customize, but for the most part, I use the highest mitigation virtues on all my classes, period. If you plan to raid or do groups, you have to have these capped to the proper levels or you die, basically. This is something when I'm getting a group together that I don't I don't waver on. You know, if you don't have your mitts up, I'm sorry, you're not coming with us. Because you're going to be the first one to die, and then everybody else dies because you died, right? If you are a solo player just leveling in the landscape, you don't really need to concern yourself with these. It's very rare you'll find, for example, a tactical mob on the landscape. So this isn't going to have to be a big stressor for you. If you like to do instances or raid at any level, you need to have these. I won't get into the numbers you need to have because that will change completely as you go along. But basically it's pretty self-explanatory. Physical mitt reduces your physical incoming damage. So, you know, if a troll walks up and brains you with his club, that's physical damage. And tactical damage is effects like fire puddles and lightning attacks, stuff like that. This, again, tactical mitt, very situational. If you're just a solo player, you don't really need to worry about that. The ones that you can ignore, regardless, if you look at the bottom two here, it says Orc Craft Mitigation and Fell Rot Mitigation. Those are specific to the Moors, the Etten Moors, which is PvP. They have zero impact on any gameplay outside of the Moors. So don't worry about those. Don't put your, you don't need to worry about getting numbers into there unless you're building a PvP character, in which case you would look at that. Otherwise, that's completely irrelevant for the rest of us. Yeah, that's about it for that. These are pretty much your big ones, your mitts and this top section up here. So we'll briefly go over these tabs. They're pretty self-explanatory. Skills is your skills tab. All your skills are here. You can also press K to get to this panel. Your travel skills will be here. Your pets will be here. Your emotes will be here. Your mount skills as well. Passive, things you've learned. So I learned how to use a bow, yay. Fellowship tab, don't worry about this. This used to be a big thing in the game. It's not really anymore. Unless your raid leader sets these, you don't need to worry about this. Mounts, this is where all your mounts are. Again, super easy. If you want, there's plugins you can use to have your mounts more accessible. So for example, I have mine set up to come in down here because I don't want to open my panel, scroll down through the list, find a horse, and then click it. I just want to click it. So that's up to you there. Title, just as it says, this is where you'll gain thousands of titles as you just play the game. You can pick from them in here, use them to search. Easy. Biography is kind of a cool one. So biography, you can write whatever you want in here. Some people have a really cool RP backstory to their character where they write this big novel about where their character came from and stuff. That's totally cool. Put whatever you want in this bio or nothing. Some people put crafting hints or like festival tips, stuff like that. Personally, I put my alts in here. I list off all my characters because people confuse me with other people and that's kind of annoying. And just things I found funny that I saw in the game. As well, if you're adopted or adopt another player, it will show here the other player's name or yours there. Wallet, I mean, for me, B opens my wallet, so I don't ever use these tabs down here. This is the premium wallet from the store, so if your wallet does not look like this, don't worry, this is a fancy wallet. But again, this is where all your crap is stored, so wallet is helpful. House, pretty self-explanatory, opens your house panel. It lets you pay maintenance, decide who comes in or who doesn't come in, and this is also where you can abandon your house if you want to get a new house or change houses or something. Hobby, there's only one hobby in the game, fishing. It says 200 levels and that's it. You level it up by just fishing. The only thing about this is once you have learned how to fish and applied your, slotted your fishing rod to fish, the only way to get this skill on your panel is to go into this hobby panel here and drag it down. It's not actually in your skills panel, which is kind of weird. It's just in the hobby panel. Moving on. Reputation, again, just tells you the rep. I bound mine to R, because R for reputation. It tells you where you are, how far you have to go. And yeah, that just lists it all off there. And lastly, the war. Again, this is PvP. If you do not PvP, you can completely ignore this tab. Just tells you all of your PvP stats. As you can see, this toon has not been to PvP ever, and he never will, because he has no interest in doing that. Yeah, honestly, that's it for character panel. It's pretty straightforward. The one cool thing is you can see other people's character panels for the most part. So I'll do this in another video too, but if you right click on someone's name in chat, click inspect. You can see their character panel. So you'll be able to see the weapons they're using, the armor, you'll be able to compare it to your own armor. As you can see, it pops up with your piece and his piece. You can see his cosmetic outfits by clicking these. Some people will have more open or not. If he has a story written in his biography, you'll see it here. He has nothing written, no big deal. You can see he's in a kin, his rank. He has not adopted anyone. Go check his weapons out. You can see he's a guardian. And that's it. You won't be able to see his morale or health in here, but that's fine. So that's kind of a cool little thing. You can check out, you know, what other people are wearing at your level or higher levels. And I like using it because I can see what everybody's pretty cosmetic outfits are. And yeah, honestly, that's it for character panel. It's pretty basic, but this is your hub. And as you go along in the game, these will become more familiar to you, and you will better be able to understand how your class works. Awesome. Thank you, and we'll see you again next time.